Yeah, or take a 20-year-old.
Greetings. Hello. Here we are. Welcome to the May 18th Town Council meeting. I'm Jen Cullum, and our fearless leader is at Katuitt Center for the Arts singing Neil Diamond this evening. And probably at the next meeting, he will be absent too. So before we get started with anything, I need to make an announcement that this meeting is being recorded by the town. And if any member of the public is planning to make an audio or video recording of the public session, they're required to notify the chair before doing so. Seeing no one, I suppose we can move into the roll call, please.
Councillors. Atzlis.
Here.
Clark. Cullum.
Here.
Cusack.
Here.
Rapgrissetti.
Present.
Levesque. Ludke.
Here.
Mendez.
Here.
Neary.
Here.
Schnepp. Shaughnessy.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
Steinhilber.
Here.
We have 10.
Okay, I'd like to ask Councillor Ludke, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? If we could remain standing for a moment of silence, I'd like us to keep in our thoughts today the family of Hugh Finley, a longtime Hyannis resident. He has a long history of service to the town of Barnstable. Beginning in 1972, he served on the Government Study Committee, 2 charter commissions, the Capital Outlay Study Committee, the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee, the Planning Board, and as a town meeting member. Mr. Finley's most recent service was on the JFK Memorial Trust Committee from 2005 until present, including a period of time as the chair for the Scholarship Subcommittee. Our deepest sympathies go to the Finley family. Thank you. Thank you. So at this time, we'll open the floor to public comment. You have 3 minutes, please. Councillor Steinhilber will be timing. Hi, could you just sign in, please, and state your name? Excellent, thank you.
And tonight, first on the agenda under old business is funding for floating treatment wetlands on Long Pond Marston's Mills. This is the result of the SMES study that was done on Long Pond 2 years ago, and the Department of Public Works believe this is the best solution for Long Pond. I mentioned last month that our neighbors who use the pond have been educated about the wetlands and are overwhelmingly supportive of it. There's one other neighbor who's going to speak tonight, and several on Zoom, and several have submitted written comment. The other recommendation that came out of the SMES study was that several of the residents in the watershed install phosphorus-reducing innovative alternative septic systems. So we, the board of Friends of Long Pond Marston's Mills, have done site visits and had numerous conversations with the Massachusetts Alternative Septic System Test Center, MassTC, and they are excited based on all the data and analysis from the SMES study. They believe that our pond would be an ideal place to pilot some of these systems. So they're going to be applying for a grant to help fund this, to help subsidize our neighbors and facilitate the installation and monitoring of these, and we'll be working closely with them. So we are happy to be working in partnership with the town. We hope the town will move forward with the wetlands, and we'll move forward with SMES, or with MassTC on the phosphorus-reducing septic systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, my name is Miriam Barboza. Let me do it real quick. Okay, there. I'm going to talk really fast because this is to me, a serious issue. Many of the residents in the town of Barnstable, we're getting a petition together. We will present it to the Board of Health, the town council, and everybody on June 1st at your next meeting. And this is a hard topic for me because it's concerning menthol cigarettes. Many of us are trying to quit. But it's not that easy. I'm 68. They had cigarette machines in high school, so it doesn't just. But the problem that we have right now is the town of Barnstable allowed one entity to be a monopoly, or whatever the proper term is, to sell menthol. Now, it's not necessarily about the product as it is about the principle. Very nasty human being to many people. He has a certain clientele that he will serve breakfast to. And I'm not trying to be mean, but if you're a white male smoking cigars, you got no problem, okay? Other than that, he is very nasty. And I am a very polite person. When I meet anybody, I will greet you kindly first. The arguments come later when you bring them. I went in one day with change because I know this man doesn't like change. I rolled them. I rolled the quarters. Unfortunately, I have to dig in my pocket deep looking for change. But I rolled the quarters. And when I went in, he had an immediate attitude because he saw the change. And then my foolish mistake, I was 75 cents short. But I let him know I have it in the car. I'll go get it. He proceeded to be rude and talk nasty. I'm like, calm down. I'll go in the car and get the change. When he did not calm down, naturally, my personality, I'm going to match you. And that's exactly what I did. You just can't come in here no more. Oh, whatever. Well, where are you going to go? That's when I lost it. I said, oh, really? So now I see what this is about. He proceeded to point to a gentleman sitting there. That's a policeman over there, plain clothes. I don't care. Get the army. And as I'm talking to other people, I realize he is very nasty. And my causes kind of come according to how you treat people in the community. And although this is something that, because I'm trying to quit, we don't want kids smoking, but nobody, when you are the only person in town, there has to be some type of recourse for this man treating people like this and feeling like, get out, you can't come here.
Yep.
So
30 seconds, please.
Okay, no, see, you make me lose my train of thought. Hang on now, hang on. But this is very serious, and I know everyone passes a buck. The town hall, he calls it a lounge. I don't care. There are other places that call it a lounge. But your constituents in the town of Barnstable, many of them are signing this petition because nobody has a right to be treated like a second-class citizen. So you'll be hearing from me again in June. I thank you all. And if everybody wants us to quit, you can't just tell people to quit. People who have been smoking a long time, you have to help them. Okay? It's just not that easy. And if y'all think I'm mean now, make me stop cold turkey. You watch what happens. I'm sorry, but that's just the truth.
Thank you, Ms. Barbosa.
But alcohol is the same way.
Hi there. My name is Adam Myrick. I'm a resident in Barnstable. I'm also a subject matter expert in power markets. I spent over 20 years in the U.S. power markets. I was fishing at Dowses today, and I had a couple of people ask me, what are all the Save Dowses signs? They're a group of buddies that come up from Connecticut every year to fish the Dowses in the Bass River. And when I told them what it was, the guy turned to me and he said, when are people going to learn that taking money to do dumb stuff isn't smart? Well, Yogi Berra-ism aside, I actually thought it was a pretty good point because the proposal to bring offshore wind ashore at Dowses is both risky and costly. Others have spoken eloquently about the environmental risks, the impacts to business. I really want to talk about the economics. So, risk reward for the town is terrible. Avangrid is already in default over what they called a minor pricing adjustment. What happens if there's a major environmental issue or if the aquifer is punctured? All of the touted direct benefits that they talk about are in future dollars. They're not net present value, and they represent the best possible outcome for the town. What would the cost be to repair the aquifer? Could it be repaired? Remember, Barnstable is self-insured. That's a fancy way of saying we don't have insurance. What will the impact be on property values and property taxes? Research shows that major power lines tend to hit property values by 10 to 30%. What's the impact on the overall tourism? The math doesn't take into account the value of the lost green space for substations, the economic disruption, including business and property values, or the impact on the local transmission grid. If you've ever had swollen hands, swollen feet, That's when the blood pools and it's painful. That's what's going to happen to our grid, according to Brattle Group. Brattle Group is a third-party consultancy. They're saying that trying to put this much power into Barnstable is going to cause outages. It's going to cause surges, transformer fires, brownouts, the works. This is not going to benefit local residents. It's certainly not going to improve quality of life. Now, on top of that, this approach actually costs more, right? This is not an Osterville-only issue. This is a Barnstable issue. Everybody who uses electricity is going to pay for this, transmission and distribution costs in perpetuity. The offshore plant approach is a viable alternative. When you plug in your Christmas tree lights, you plug in one strand. You don't plug in each light independently. The idea here is to build an offshore energy superhighway, plug it
30
in,
seconds, please.
plug it into existing power plant infrastructure, plug it into the urban centers that need it, but you don't want to come in through the beaches here. You don't have the infrastructure to absorb it. It's going to cause major upheaval. Massachusetts wants to lead in offshore wind. That means doing it right, not fast, sloppy, and stupid. So I'm asking you guys to stand up for the residents of Barnstable and their long-term interests here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Terry Rigolette. I live in Marston's Mills with my husband, Harry. We own and operate Long Meadow Farm that abuts Long Pond. I am speaking tonight to encourage this council to quickly approve the funding to install floating treatment wetlands that can help alleviate the growth of cyanobacteria that has plagued the pond, along with a great many other of the 182 ponds we have in Barnstable and many more across the Cape. I'm not going to go into the scientific data tonight. That this town, Barnstable County, the APCC, and the Friends of Long Pond that Amy just spoke about have collected over many years. What I do want to direct your attention to is the action plan for Barnstable Ponds that was conducted by the town and published in 2009. In that report, there is an analysis of the state of our ponds and recommendations to preserve the health and restoration of our ponds. It incorporates a nutrient management plan. Long Pond, our 54-acre pond that borders magnificent conservation land managed by our town, is noted in this extensive study, which includes data beginning in 2001. Reviewing this report and then including the extensive research that has continued since the 2009 report until the present gives us more than modest assessment of this pond's health and many of our ponds in the town. On a personal note, we have lived at Long Meadow Farm for the past 7 years and have noticed a marked decrease in aquatic life, including frogs, fish, and turtles. I recognize that some progress has been made with diversion of runoff water, pond cleanup, and public education. I applaud the town for its plan for town sewer development. I acknowledge that the continuing degradation of our ponds has been fueled by climate change. What I also know is that pond health directly and dramatically affects the health of our town. Pond health must be continually and aggressively addressed. The installation of these floating treatment wetlands as soon as possible can be a financially manageable treatment for the 25 monitored ponds that experience cyanobacteria blooms that continue to impact the health of these ponds. Treating this growing problem is not ever going to get cheaper.
30 seconds, please.
Not acting is unwise and short-sighted. Freshwater degradation is not a small problem, it is a huge problem. We must address it aggressively. Let's be honest, we have done this with overdevelopment, overuse of fertilizers, and general neglect. We must fix it. Fuel this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else for public comment? Cindy, could you help with a microphone? Or maybe, oh, Lynn can. Lynn is all ready for you.
You can hear me pretty good.
Okay, but Lynn's here with, okay.
Hi, my name is Patty. My spouse and I, Dawn, bought a house on C Street in 2013. In September of 21, I became disabled after suffering a stroke. And come to found out that our town of Hyannis does not have truly accessibility on Main Street for parking. I found out the hard way. And I went home that night after going to a restaurant and wrote the town. And it's recommended that I go to a couple of disability commission meetings, so which I did. And I went yesterday, and they told me that I should plan on attending the Great Streets meeting last night, which I did. And afterward, they had questions, and I asked them what the plans were for the handicap parking, and they said there were no plans included in the new program. So I was wondering, what are we going to do about it? And Dawn's got some stuff to say, so thank you.
We're a good team.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Jen.
Welcome, Dawn.
Hi, my name is Dawn Erickson Taylor, and as Patty said, I'm her spouse. And we've learned a lot in the last year and a half after Patty's stroke, and navigating our neighborhood, just life in general has become very different. So again, we attended the Great Streets Plan presentation last night, and I believe it has a lot of promise for making downtown Hyannis safer, more walkable for pedestrians, and pathways to provide for bicycles, using traffic calming tools to slow vehicle speed, and increasing business. But there was a glaring absence of any reference to the aging and disabled and how this plan provides for them. The 13 handicap spots that currently exist on Main Street in Hyannis all have a granite curb, creating a barrier to safe sidewalk access. The 2010 ADA standards call for a level access aisle so that those who use a walker, a cane, a wheelchair can safely access a sidewalk from a handicap parking spot. And I took this because I think it's important for all of us, for you working in a municipality, to be reminded what it feels like or what it means to be marginalized. This is from the Democracy and Justice periodical. To marginalize someone means to make them less able to do things or access basic services or opportunities. When we talk about marginalization today, we usually refer to groups of people who face discrimination and exclusion. Our societies also marginalize people with disabilities, either through indifference to their plight or ignorance of the extent of the problem. Neglect of public infrastructure can marginalize the disabled, for example. This is often caused by the fact that they struggle to have their issues heard or are overlooked by governments. Most of us want to live in a society where people are treated equally, have equal chances to succeed or stay healthy, and can live in safety and happiness. When we are marginalized people or groups, we pull society further away from these things. We make it less equal, less just, less enjoyable for everyone. We can stop the marginalization. At the top, governments need to do a better job of considering the needs of all people. Fair resource allocation and accessibility. Water and electricity, roads and public transport. It is necessary to improve practices and infrastructure. In summary, after reading the 86-page, that's 86 pages, I don't know if you've all read it, of the Great Streets Plan, there is not one reference to creating a safer, accessible Great Streets downtown to those with disabilities, not one.
Thank you for coming out tonight, both of you. I appreciate that. Anyone else in the room for public comment tonight? How about in Zoom land?
We do have 3 speakers.
Excellent.
The first is Brett Goldberg. Brett, you have 3 minutes. You may unmute.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Brett Goldberg. I live on Long Pond in Marston's Mills. Please forgive the background noise. I'm in the Minneapolis airport waiting for my flight back to Boston. I just want to say that I am very grateful for the support of the town with respect to the cyanobacteria problem in Long Pond. And I strongly encourage you to approve funding for the proposed floating wetlands project. I realize that it is a pilot program and is experimental, but if it works as we hope it will, it is an ideal solution in that it will permanently remove excess phosphorus from the pond and do that in a way that is 100% green and environmentally friendly, and therefore well worth the expense of the pilot project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for tuning in. Grab a coffee. You'll be home soon.
Our next speaker is David Abelman. Mr. Abelman, you have 3 minutes. You may unmute.
Hi, thank you, and thank you for the time. I am here with my wife, Marilyn. We are at 251 Lakeshore Drive, also on Long Pond, and we also want to voice our strong support for the floating wetlands project. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time because you've heard from others. I don't want to repeat too much. This is very much about the environment. It's very much about the recreational use of our waterways, both Long Pond and throughout Barnstable and Cape Cod. But I don't want to miss the fact that it's also about property values. And we saw firsthand this past year with houses on the market, the impact of the cyanobacteria on the pond, and the direct impact when it was discovered what's going on. So it's very important for the town to take this on. I can say that the plans for floating wetlands would probably put them right in front of our house. And as a person who will be very much impacted by this, I can tell you that we are fully supportive of these of the wetland project, and very hopeful that it will benefit all of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate your comments.
Our next speaker is Rick Moore. Mr. Moore, you have 3 minutes. You may unmute.
You're muted, I believe.
Can you hear me? I'm Rick Moore.
Yeah.
I'm here with Joanna Chodes. Joanna is on the board of the Friends of Long Pond, and I'm a professional engineer and have been providing some advice to the board. I'd like to emphasize the issue of the floating wetlands. It's been very frustrating, the condition of the pond over the last several years. And I think floating wetlands, not only, although it's a demonstration project, if it works on Long Pond, it has applications to other ponds. So this is not just a unique situation. It's a potentially a Cape-wide solution. And I would support it along with Brett and Dave and the other members of the board and the other folks around Long Pond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We have no further public comment on Zoom.
Excellent. Then we'll close that public comment. I do want to say that I'm always so thankful that the pond people come out and talk about how important it is. And I feel like the CIP this last round really put a lot of time and effort into addressing those issues. And I think you have a supportive council here. But I will ask now for a councilor response to public comment. Yep, go ahead. Councilor Lucky.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the public comments, all the folks who spoke about the ponds. I, again, really appreciate that, as Vice President Cullum said. And we talked about the alum treatment on the ponds at a past meeting. And I also appreciate when we get emails from constituents, because that really helps me inform my decisions when we come to the meeting. So all the input is fantastic, and I'm completely in support of the efforts at Long Pond, because water is our life, and we've done a lot of work with it, and there's a lot more work to do with water, so that's fantastic. Patty and Dawn, absolutely. I've been a great enthusiast following the great streets, but my goodness, what an oversight, right? I can share a little empathy with you. I'm currently on disability from my job. I'm on long-term disability. I am unable to work. I couldn't walk for 2 months. So I can really appreciate where you're coming from, and absolutely going forward. And I'm sure Elizabeth Jenkins will be open, as, you know, we got the deliverable from the contractor, but it's certainly ours now to take and shape. And we also had a discussion about these granite curbs a couple of meetings ago in a slightly different way, people running into them, getting out of the way of emergency vehicles and slashing tires. And Mr. Ellis says they're there to keep people from the sidewalk, which indeed they're doing for you. So it's something definitely to address, absolutely, the granite curbs. It's really an important comment that you bring up. So thank you so much. And I'm sorry that you're in this situation, but you raise a great point. Adam, fantastic comments. And a few months ago, I was on a radio show, and the individual wanted to talk about the Dowses Beach, and I frankly didn't know much about it. And so I did some research and reading on my own. I came across that Brattle report. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And then I was fortunate to meet with you guys. I think you've met with most of the counselors, and you explained some of your issues. And nobody's opposed to the wind power. My goodness, we need it to get off the fossil fuels. But if we don't try to push for the planned approach, we're really setting ourselves up for a crazy situation here. And I want to, support you in any way you can, working with the state to achieve their goals, but to do it in a reasonable way, because it's really kind of frightening. And we are probably the biggest stakeholders in this. We're the first community to face this. So there's so much to it. So I appreciate, and especially your expertise in the electrical field is fantastic. And then Marianne, with the cigarettes and the addiction, I've known a lot of people. Fortunately, I haven't been addicted myself, but it's difficult. So I look forward to hearing what you're going to say on the first. And I think that's it. But again, I really appreciate citizens commenting. Please keep doing it, and please email us as well. Thank you.
So thank you, Councillor Ludke. I'd like to add that Elizabeth Jenkins is going to come up after we're done with our initial comments and address Don and Patty's concerns, just because I feel like it's an important issue, and I want to make sure that you know that it's forefront in all of our minds. But that said, I want to let the councillors talk and ask questions now, and then maybe when Elizabeth comes up, she can touch on those points. Does that sound fair? Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Response to public comment? No? To the left? Oh, Mr. Atzelis. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just wanted to comment, Patty and Dawn, I actually attended all three of those meetings, and thank you for saying what you did tonight, because I didn't even recognize that was left out. And now that you've brought it to not just my attention, but everybody here on the dais and everybody else in the town, we'll make sure that those issues are addressed. And again, thank you. I want to knock myself on the head for not recognizing that myself, but thank you.
Councillor Shaughnessy.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I want to let everyone from Long Pond know that I fully support the measure, and our water quality is a very important issue. One thing, particularly with regards to the ponds, the Indian Pond, Long Pond, Elizabeth Lake, and all the email comments and feedback we get, which I do read, it's so nice to see how these little niche communities come together, and nice to, it's a lot of feedback in terms of how that community enjoys that resource. So it's nice to see that engagement, and it's nice to see neighborhoods come together like that. And I will support that measure. Patty and Dawn, Patty, thanks so much for your courage in coming here. It's hard enough dealing with a big life transition like that, but being marginalized at the same time is a lot. And considering that I believe our county has the third highest senior population, not in the state, but in the country, that's a major oversight, because we have a massive gray economy here on the Cape, and we don't want anyone to be marginalized, so thank you. Adam, your comments on the Avangrid project at Dow's Beach, but not just that, the other wind projects coming on shore. And thank you, Suzanne, for being here and meeting with us a couple weeks ago. I've done a lot of talking to my husband about this, who's a scientist, and the point you made about property values going down with a major power line, I mean, we're talking about a power line more major than just your average run of poles down Route 6. I mean, this is major. So I tend to completely agree with you when it comes to that. I would rather see a planned approach. I would rather see offshore substations. And when I would rather that power comes onshore in a much more planned way to a larger urban area, and not a glacial peninsula and a place of a lot of natural beauty and resources. So thank you for those comments.
Any other councillors? No? Okay, I have a couple things that I'd like to offer. So Don and Patty are my constituents, and they're, to me, they're just such a fortress of strength going through this together. And my husband had a really bad accident at work just after Patty had her stroke, and we were blindsided by how we had to reorganize our lives. And it was temporary, thank God. But you know, these sorts of things you don't realize. We used to have Mike Hersey up here to talk to us about accessibility all the time. But you don't really think about it until it affects you. Shortly after that, we went to Europe, and he was still on a scooter at that point, and realized that we saw no disabled people anywhere, nowhere. In Italy, nowhere. In the airports, it took us an hour and a half longer than it took to normally go through the lines because they didn't know what to do with the scooter. They couldn't manage it. So I think now's the time, if we're going to spend money on the street, and I know Elizabeth is going to say this, that we make it right for everybody. And I'm so thankful you brought it to our attention, that you called me. I'm always thankful when you call me. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Elizabeth Jenkins to talk about your comments.
Thank you, Vice President Cullum. Elizabeth Jenkins, Director of Planning and Development. I appreciate you allowing me a chance to address the issue, and I had the pleasure of meeting Patty and Dawn at last night's meeting and speaking to them there as well. And, you know, if you've attended the Great Streets meeting, you've heard me say that it's not necessarily about, you know, the importance of what way the traffic goes about a two-way Main Street. It's really about the importance of creating a safer downtown for all who use it and creating more equitable transportation options for our community. And I think the issues that they've brought to light relative to accessibility are an incredibly valuable and additive piece to this. So I do want to say, you know, that we're listening, we're here, and we fully acknowledge that. And as we move into a phase where we've sort of taken a conceptual and very big picture plan for the entire roadway network and how it will change, and start to refine it into more detailed design concepts about how actually things like curbs will be modified throughout the plan, we will absolutely have my commitment to incorporate accessibility improvements into that, into these what we hope to be transformative changes for our downtown.
And those will be public meetings as well, so that they could come and offer their, you know, their concerns or, you know, applause for whatever
Absolutely, and you know, I think we are so fortunate to have an excellent disability commission here, who, you know, again, I think as we do plan development, we work with them quite often, especially in our parking program, which falls under planning and development, and certainly again, working with them in the sort of in this next design phase, I think would be a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's a big opportunity for us to really move our game forward. I do have one follow-up about the Great Streets thing. I got an email from a concerned constituent last night who decided to walk home on Old Colony as opposed to going South Street like she normally would to go home. And she thought it was very ironic that she came from a Safe Streets meeting and felt threatened on her way home by various people darting in and out of the woods and things like that. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to kind of scale out and look at what we really have on Old Colony and what's happening there and the camps and other things that exist. It's a great concern for me because it's my backyard. And I hate to see people who've lived here their whole lives in the same house suffer from that. And it's, you know, warming up outside now, so I think it's time that we have a meeting maybe with the chief and others to talk about those things. It's not what we want to look at when we talk about making a great community, but indeed it's part of it. And we need to, I think, be really comprehensive about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so normally we would now do town manager communications, but town manager Els is delayed at Cape Cod Community College, I think accepting scholarships for his kids. So I'm going to push that back, if that's okay with everyone, and instead maybe we could hear from Ted Lowry from Barnstable Neighbor to Neighbor. Would you mind? Thank you.
I think there should be a clicker up here, a remote. Well, first of all, Vice President Cullum, thank you, and thank you, councilors, for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about Barnstable.
Angela and Todd, I'll give you a heads up when we'll head you over for your own items, okay? There will be a short presentation, I believe, from Director Milne, and then the orders of the day will be after that.
I don't know, I assume that you can just make your comments and jump off. I can't see it online. We don't have
Hold,
cable
please, we're
anymore,
working on
so.
Should I continue?
Yeah, I think you should. I see mute now on there. We'll see.
Okay. Vice President Cullum, thank you. And councilors, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk a little bit about Barnstable Neighbor to Neighbor. And on behalf of our board and our steering committee, some of our board members are here. It's my pleasure to tell you about Barnstable Neighbor to Neighbor. We shortened it to BN2N. So if I use BN2N, that's the acronym I'm using. Huh? There we go. Back in 2018, Kathy Schatzberg wrote an article in the Cape Cod Times about aging in place. And some of the, she noted that there were 3 villages already on Cape Cod, but there wasn't one in Barnstable. And she challenged the town to start a village. And so a number of us in early 2019 got together. Thanks to Maddie Noonan at the Barnstable Dell Community Center. And we formed a group, a steering committee, and which included Kathy Schatzberg, by the way. She's been very involved in our organization. We established a village based on a nationwide model, the first one being started by Beacon Hill in 2002. The Barnstable Village, as we envisioned it, would be complementary to the BACC. We would provide services, the BACC would provide programs. And that has worked out very well. We've had a great relationship. Maddie left us, as you all know, to go elsewhere, to the Mass COA, but we've had a great relationship with the COA and the BACC. Try this. Our mission was pretty simple and straightforward. Age 60 plus, you would be eligible for our services, and it's to support their desire to age in place while maintaining a quality of life in their homes and their communities. So what's a village? A village is an organization, usually a 501c3, as we are, that helps older residents age in place. As I mentioned, they can stay in their homes and communities, and it provides access to programs at the BAC, for example, BACC, or nutritional food, as I'll explain in a minute. It helps to provide isolation. This was especially acute during the COVID years. So we can get people out, and gives them the opportunity to get out and shop or do other activities. I mentioned there were 4 on the Cape. The first one that started on the Cape was called Nauset Neighbors. It's the Outer Cape, and it includes Wellfleet, Eastham, Orleans, Chatham, Harwich, and Brewster, which is about 46,000 people. They've been going for about 10 plus years. The second one was Neighborhood Falmouth. Their population is about 33,000. They've been going for about 10 years as well. The third one was called Bay to Sound, and that's in Dennis and Yarmouth. They have about 40,000 people. That's the population of the 2 towns together. They've been going for about 4 plus years. And we are the 4th, and you all know that we're about 49,000 people here in Barnstable. If you take our population that we want to service, it's about 25% of the town's population. That's 60 plus. I think someone mentioned earlier that that we are one of the oldest towns certainly in the state and perhaps in the country. So what are these services? The vast majority of what we do is transportation. For example, taking our members to a medical appointment, to go grocery shopping, to the hairdresser, the barber shop, or programs at the BACC, for example. We do light home and yard assistance, simple repairs. We trim bushes. We fertilize plants. We can do any number of things in the home. We also do simple technology, like hooking up a television for a member or helping with their phone. Oftentimes, they're not sure how to use it, so we can go in. We have people that have technology experience, and they can go in and help. Program a thermostat. I've actually done that for one of our volunteers. Each interaction is a friendly visit. And what I mean by that is it's an interaction with somebody who can go in and talk with them, spend some time with them. One of the stories I like to tell to our group is it was one of my first services was to trim bushes in a gentleman's yard. He was 96 years old, and it took me about 15 minutes to trim the bushes in his yard. The next hour and a half, we talked in his living room about his experience in World War II, and then also the Boston Bruins. He was a big Bruins fan, so we talked about that. One of the interesting things about his experience in World War II is he went in when he was 18. They trained him, and he wasn't old enough to be sent to Europe, so they sent him down south to age for a while before he could. Before they could send him over at the very end of the war. It happened to be in 1945. So I questioned whether or not the service was really trimming bushes or was it a friendly visit. So how does it work? We have a dedicated group of volunteers who answer a phone. And those phone calls come from our members. The members will say, I need to go to the doctors on next Tuesday, and they will write it down. They'll enter it into a system that we use. It's a data processing system that we use for matching the requests to our volunteers. This is all virtual, by the way. We have some of our volunteers will be on vacation, and they can do it either here in town or they can be in Arizona, which is one of our, we call them service coordinators, actually was in Arizona for 2 months while they took calls. I refer to them as our nerve center because everything happens through that phone call or that phone number. So the volunteers then will look at the services on their system. They can sign in, they can see what's there, and they can say, I volunteer. They just hit a button, say, I volunteer. And the system matches them up. It sends them a report on when to pick up the member, where they're going. It shows a map, and then they can take them home. It's very simple, and it's a great system. So the numbers. We currently have 90 members that have signed up. We have a wait list of 34. I'll get to that a little bit in a minute. We have a membership group that goes out and interviews potential members, and those members are then become officially members once we've had a chance to talk with them, find out what their needs might be, and they are then able to request services. Our volunteers, we've trained about 120. But we have currently about 85 to 90 that are active at any one time. All are CORI screened, and they go through an hour and a half orientation before they can provide services. We do charge for what we do. We charge $225 annually for an individual, $375 annually for a household of 2. The fees are discounted or waived if depending on financial need, and we will not turn anybody down for financial reasons. Never, ever. The services are provided. A member can request 12 services a month, or a household of 2 can request 20 services per month. And if you do the math, that's about $1.57 per service. So over the last 2 years that we've been providing services, we're averaging about 190 to 200 now per month. Early on, we didn't provide that many, but we've surpassed 2,500 services since we started, over 6,500 volunteer hours, and 39,000 miles driven by our volunteers. And just for illustration, that's about 1.5 times the circumference of the Earth that we've driven. So the feedback from our members has been pretty positive, life-saving. Every volunteer has been so nice and helpful. I couldn't believe how wonderful this was. It gives me the opportunity to get to the BACC. And from the volunteers, it feels good to help the people in my community. So, to be sure, the heart of BN2N is its people. Many behind the scenes, providing matching on our system, taking phone calls, leading committees, helping out in many different ways. And I think you'd find that the members would say, they would tell you that it's more than the service received that they appreciate, and the volunteers would tell you that it's more than the service provided. It's also the relationship. So there are challenges. We watch the ratio of volunteers to members very closely. I mentioned the wait list on the volunteers is 34 at present. We have to make sure we have enough volunteers to support the requests by the members. We always need new volunteers, so if any of you would like to volunteer, we're more than happy to have you. As we grow, we need to rethink how we run our operations. We have staffing needs. That means that we need volunteers that can come in and help, and we may need to look at how we're organized. And lastly, sustainability. We always need new and additional leaders to help the organization, not unlike many nonprofits. In closing, we're pretty proud and happy with what we've accomplished. We know there's much to do, as I mentioned. We have many people to thank. The COA has been wonderful. The BACC has been a great partner. The Friends of the COA gave us some early funding so that we could buy pads and paper and do a little bit of startup work. The steering committee has been great. We have community leaders that are on our steering committee that have been wonderful to work with. And last but not least, we have wonderful volunteers. I would be happy to answer any questions if any of you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. I just want to point out, you are a 501c3, even though,
Yeah.
so I just want to make sure that's clear because there's a charge mentioned here, but I just wanted to make sure it's clear that it's a nonprofit. And then also, Cindy ran downstairs and got pamphlets that were in our hallway just to pass around. So if you have people you want to hand those off to, that's awesome. If you don't, please leave them so we can put them back where they belong. And now, councilor discussion. Councilor Atzles?
Mr. Lowry, thank you very much for being here. And Meg Laughlin brought this to my attention last year, your service, so it's been very interesting to us. I was just curious, what's been your best method or methods for promoting the service to the public at this point? Getting the word out.
To promoting?
Yeah, making people aware of the service. What's been working the best for you?
Well, as was just mentioned, this brochure is everywhere. Meg and Sue French, a few others that you might know, have put them in every library, every fire station.
We have them in our church.
In the churches, yes. Yeah. So that's, word of mouth is very big. For members, they usually hear about it from somebody else, and it may be somebody in their church that's already got it. But the most effective way, I think, is just getting the word out. We haven't done any real advertising other than getting it out there, the brochure, and getting people familiar with it.
Okay.
Part of tonight is to help get the word out.
And I just have one more question. Do your volunteers have to have Corey checks?
Yes.
They do, okay.
Yes, we Cory check every volunteer.
Right.
We have not had anyone not pass yet.
That's good.
Not pass, let me clarify.
Yeah, that's good. I could have used you when I was trying to program my new exterior light timer. Trying to figure out how to do it based on daylight savings time wasn't too easy for
That'll
me.
be $350.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop it.
I'll be gladly pay you for that. But I would like to follow up with you later. I do have some thoughts on it, and maybe help you get the word out.
Much appreciated. Any other questions?
Counselor Shaughnessy?
Well, I've got the pamphlets in my office. I can't say enough about how amazing I think this program is, not just for the service provide, but like you highlighted, the isolation. I know quite often in the realm that I'm in, sometimes the discussion or the visit from me might be the only contact someone's had in quite some time.
Yep.
And I'm very conscious of that, to give them that time to just tell a story. Like you said, the 15 minutes of bushes and the hour and a half of conversation. But the other thing I want to say is it's so incredible because it's so economical. People that need to hire an agency to take them to appointments, or if they're having difficulty shopping, all those sorts of things. Those little supports mean so much. But an agency, you're looking to pay $55 an hour. Many of the agencies require you to have a minimum number of hours a week before they'll show up. They won't show up for 1 hour just to take you to an appointment. So I just think this is incredible. I'm so happy that you guys got this off the ground for the town of Barnstable, and I just think it's an amazing program. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Counselor Shaughnessy. Counselor Starr?
Thank you. I want to say thank you, Mr. Lowry, for all you've done and the people you pulled together and your volunteer. I know people who use the service. My wife is a driver, so it's a great service for everybody in the community. So I appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Counselor Ledke?
A couple questions. One, how low do you go on age? I'm just wondering, do you have teens that are doing this? Because I see a lot, and I know my son goes out and helps people with their yards and things like that because he gets kind of word of mouth. There's a lot of folks that can't, like you said, can't quite do the yard work. So do you accept teens into the program? Do you have anyone that young?
We don't have anybody that young. Actually, most of our volunteers are probably in their 60s and 70s themselves. We have talked about having a volunteer bring somebody along, maybe for technology assistance.
Exactly. I mean, the teens, they know the technology.
The
That's
teens,
for sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
But we have to have them quarried, and so we have to go through that process. So in effect, yes, we could probably have a teen. We don't have any. We've been asked about programs in association with either the high school or elsewhere. We haven't been ready for that, quite honestly. But that's something we could certainly look at it in the future.
And then the other question is with language, with, again, the population increasing with the Portuguese and the Spanish. Have you run into that with any of your people who are enrolled in the program with language?
Not really.
No.
Again, it's really dependent on who signs up for the services, but we have not run into that yet.
Do you have any Spanish or Portuguese speakers that have signed up?
We have some that are, yes, we have some, but they also speak English.
They speak
fortunately.
English.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Counselor Repka-City?
Yes, thank you, Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Lowry, for coming in and for your organization. I think it's so great to promote aging in place. And as Counselor Shaughnessy said, it can be very isolating. So this is a way of communication. And I agree with Counselor Lutke that it would be great to see younger people volunteering because you can learn so much from your elders, and I don't think enough of that is done. I wanted to know, what's the most requested service?
Well, transportation is over 90% of what we do. It's in it as it plays out. People that don't have their cars any longer, their transportation, or never had them. So we find that that's the biggest thing. It's doctor's appointments. Our members are probably in their 70s, 80s, and some are in their 90s, so they have a lot of doctor's appointments, and that's something that we do. And we place a high priority on that to make sure that when somebody requests a medical appointment of any sort, that we find a volunteer to do that right away.
So the volunteers drive their own personal vehicles
They do.
to do that?
They do, and we have what's called non-owned auto insurance for that, so that, because we as an organization don't own the auto, so it's the volunteers.
So if a dealership offered you a vehicle, would you accept it?
I guess I wouldn't turn down anything, but
No, I'm just.
Could we?
You know, we've got quite a few auto dealers, and it might be something to look at to have them donate vehicles for transportation, if that's one of your
It's a really good thought, and it's, we probably would.
Okay,
To answer your
great.
question.
Thank you for all you do, and the volunteers as well.
Thank you.
Maybe just one final comment. I wondered if maybe we could put you in touch with the Youth Commission. They do some work at the BACC, and that might be a nice connection, as Councillor Lutke was saying, to for them to support the community too,
Sure.
and vice versa. So maybe Cindy could do that. Would you do that, Cindy? Could you put George Noonan in touch with Mr. Lowry? And I'll send an email too, just to, spice it up a little bit,
Sure.
maybe.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much for coming in tonight. I think it's an excellent program. I love anything that builds the fabric of the community back, because we don't talk enough. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. Els is in the room. Welcome to the Gong Show. It's been amazing so far. But we did hold off on town manager communications until you were here. So I'm just going to go over briefly what you reviewed, if I could, just in the bullet points, if I can find them here in said notes. I know I have them here somewhere. Well, we know you went over the update on the wastewater. I think I have it here. I got it here. Okay, so we did the budget action calendar like we always do. Continued efforts regarding prohibiting discharge of radioactive wastewater from the Plymouth Nuclear Power Plant. And I'm going over this so people at home can tune in or not tune in, depending upon what they have concerns about, because all of these are recorded now, the town manager communications, just so we can get 45 minutes off the meeting. But the councilors still have the opportunity to ask questions, and so does the public at public comment. The local comprehensive plan update was there. A notice of green burial regulation hearing. Summer of 2023 beach raking notice. That's a big one. Notice for action by town and public hearing regarding lands at Cape Cod Community College. Continued town discussions with Mass DEP regarding proposed changes to Title V. Update on the Great Streets Downtown Hyannis project. Announcement of Barnstable Youth Commission Youth Summit. That's a good one too. Update from Kelly Colopy. Am I saying that right? Colopy? Okay, the DPW communications manager, who's been really great in communicating all of the information that's happening there on 28 and all the other stuff. So do any councilors have any questions regarding Mark's? No? No? Okay. Oh, Councilor Starr does.
Oh, can I was wondering if there are any reports from today's meeting with DEP, any announcements you want to make, or go ahead.
Good evening, Mark Ells, Town Manager. Thank you for allowing me to spend an hour with my daughter Lily. That was wonderful at Cape Cod Community College. No, I don't have any announcements relevant to it. We've seemed to have had 3 very similar meetings with DEP where we are reviewing the comments that have been submitted by the communities across our Commonwealth. So I don't have any further insight. It was about a 2-hour meeting. It now is a advisory committee group that I'm on. And it is, a fairly significant number of people, maybe 12 or 14, it looks like. And primary discussion was with the Deputy Commissioner of DEP, Gary Moran, who's somebody that we've worked with for a long time. I'll report back to you as we progress. I think they're moving toward adoption. We're still trying to clarify how they're going to segment up the regulation relevant to on Cape versus off Cape. It would look as though it's pretty final in the sense that Cape Cod has a lot more information on nutrient loading and its delineation of nitrogen-sensitive areas. Therefore, upon adoption, they're going to designate areas, especially along the south side of the Cape, as nitrogen-sensitive. The rest of the state does not have that, especially southeastern New England, coastal Massachusetts, I'm sorry, not New England. So that'll probably be, it looks like maybe 2 phases for the adoption of this. And then we're trying to understand within that group on Cape Cod, those that have approved comprehensive wastewater management plans and those that don't. And how will the regulation apply to both of those? Because they've separated in, well, if you have an approved, but it's not a comprehensive wastewater management plan, it's a nitrogen management plan and a designated nitrogen-sensitive area. If you have that approved, then you don't have to, in your community, implement innovative on-sites because you've already got a plan in place that could combine a whole host of things. So they're really trying to clarify how that will work in both cases, both those communities that do have approved CWMPs, which Barnstable does, and we're several years into implementation, and those that don't. But we've had the same conversation now several times. So I will just keep you advised, and but I do feel as though they're progressing toward the approval of something.
Did you have a follow-up, Councilor Stewart?
A follow-up comment, please. I just remember how adamant they were that they were, but was that the first of the year? They were going to have them done, but.
Well, I could be standing here the first of next year still having this conversation.
Okay.
I'll do my best to bring you accurate information.
Thank you for being involved.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Councilor Ludke.
No, you brought something up when you talked about the innovative on-site. You weren't here earlier when Amy spoke about Long Pond and how she said they were getting a grant to do some innovative treatment in connection with that. And I just thought that was really cool that, the citizens are doing that, getting the grant on their own and complementing our sewering efforts and the efforts to do the treatment on Long Pond. So I just, you missed her comments, but I think it's fantastic.
It is wonderful, and
It's when this works together, right?
many of our citizens groups do that, and we regularly work together with our citizens, and it's always a better project that way.
Anyone else? Oh, Councilor Atzelis.
Thank you. Town Manager, I was on item 5 as it relates to the beach raking. Seeing as 2 of the 5 beaches are in Precinct 4, as far as public outreach, just so folks know what to expect or where to go, how's that going to be handled? As far as letting residents know, because I'm going to operate on the assumption that some residents will be concerned when they go to the beach and not see it as clean as they're used to seeing it, and they'll wonder why.
We'll work with Director Ganello to make sure that our rec staff has communications at the gate. We really are working with, this makes us step back and look at our organizational structure. When we look at what is occurring here, we're seeing, it's a two-edged sword. We're seeing a restoration of rare and endangered species, which is certainly something that we want to see occur. On the flip side, it has impacts to how we recreate and how we utilize our resources. So Assistant Town Manager Clyburn and myself have stepped back and said to ourselves, perhaps we need to reorganize our structure, and we currently do this at Sandy Neck. And we have a beach there that's utilized by both visitors and residents and off-road vehicles. So that's even a little more complicated than just people walking on a beach. So long answer, but we're working with Nina on that front to better educate what's happening and why. we're working with rec staff to kind of recreationally get out there and communicate this. I think summer of '23, there's going to be a lot of questions, and we're going to have to be frontline and answer them. All means, I will use Lynn Poyant, and certainly frontline at those 5 beaches. I expect that over this summer and into next year, we will develop plans, and we'll have a much better idea going into summer of '24 as to what will be allowed. And if anything occurs that brings this to a safe or health level concern, we'll immediately move to the state and look to be able to go out there and clean whatever the issue is or address whatever the issue is. But I think this will have to be something that, I'm speaking with various groups, whether it's the chamber or others, to let them know that this has occurred and will occur. Most of it's prompted by our discussion about the fireworks not occurring any longer on the 4th of July in Lewis Bay, and I don't expect that will be allowed to occur again. Not within the season of the 4th, maybe Labor Day or beyond, but, and again, it's rare and endangered species habitat and the proximity of activity to that habitat. So I think this will continue to develop, and it may broaden, quite honestly. So I think the more education, you're going to see us have a real push strategy as far as communications, getting out there to people and let them know, frontline and through all the social media ability that we have. So,
thank you.
Yes, sir.
I feel like the civic associations might be able to help get the word out, because the beaches that are affected this year are Dowses, Calmus, Craigville, Covels, and Fortis Beach.
Yep.
So those are, big recreation areas, to your point.
It is, and our immediate focus was we have a lot of things going on at those beaches. You may shake your head at this, but the initial conversation or the question I asked is, are they going to let us continue to go to those beaches and use them? And then it was, we have events scheduled at some of them. Will we be able to be in the parking lot and continue those events? I believe yes and yes. Will we be able to go on the beach and have those events? In question.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for that answer. So I don't want to prematurely answer, but on the other hand, we're coming up quick on Memorial Day here. So if we don't have an answer, we will not do it.
Could we send some notification out to the civic associations about this so they can get ahead of it? Because I feel like
I'll
I've
just
seen it
take
on
my
Facebook
communications and forward it to all of them and make myself available. And we'll do it prior to Memorial Day.
Yeah, I
Lynn's
think it's
already writing
important.
this down, so she'll get it out for me. And she can take from my last or this and just send it directly if they haven't seen it yet.
And then if, details emerge about whether we can actually, hand rake or how we're going to manage seaweed and flies that happen sometimes or whatever, it would be really good to
Right.
disseminate that as we get it.
Right, but I think when you read the material, it's very interesting. Like I'll forward you what I just got today from Nina. But when we look at a rack line, for example, which many people want to see disappear, that's where food comes from. That's where species live. That's how they build their nest. That's absolutely needed. So, we're going to have to educate ourselves and then regroup on these issues.
It's going to be a lot of backyard sunbathing this year.
Well, it's just going to be a little different than what we've had in the past. And, I don't want to get us in a situation where we violate a federal or state regulation and then have more severe action than this taken against us.
Exactly. I think that's how it needs to be framed. Thank you very much for your effort. I wanted to point out that recorded prior to this meeting was the overview of the fiscal year 2024 proposed operating budget by Mark Milne. Did any councilors have any questions on that if they had a chance to watch it yet? It's for most of the stuff we're forwarding to the next, all of the stuff we're forwarding to the next meeting, but just in case anyone had any questions, and for the public at home, it's very informative. I might know it word by now. Jessica does too. So that's it then for Town Manager Communications. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And I kind of hurried through communications from elected officials. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to share? Any elected officials have anything they want to share? No? Okay. One thing from Councillor Ludke.
Yeah, PFAS, the Silent Spring, directed by Dr. Shader, they're going out on Saturday, again, to do canvassing. So you can either contact Silent Spring or you can contact me to get involved and be able to go out and knock on doors. Still finding people that have never heard of this. And I got a lot of people. I was over at the West Hyannisport Post Office this past Saturday and signed up quite a few people there. When people hear about it, they're very interested. So anyone who wants to help, they're going to do on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ledke. Councillor Steinhuber.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of May 4th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion about the meeting minutes from May 4th? Seeing none, we can move that to a vote, please. Oh, I can call for the vote. So all those in favor? Aye. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to old business. Go right through this here. Let's see, Councillor Mendes, would you read item 2023-127?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair. This is old business, item number 2023-127. It's for a public hearing, roll call, majority vote of the full council. Appropriation in the amount of $90,000 for the purpose of funding a floating treatment wetland pilot study for Long Pond, Marston's Mills.
Second.
Dan Santos is here to walk us through.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, Town Councilors. Dan Santos, Director of Public Works. In response to frequent cyanobacteria blooms in Long Pond, Marston's Mills, the Department of Public Works retained the Coastal Systems Program at UMass Dartmouth School for Marine Science and Technology, which is known as SMAST, to conduct a diagnostic assessment of Long Pond and develop a management plan to address water quality issues. SMAST has completed the diagnostic assessment and developed a final management plan for the pond. SMAST has determined that the most effective long-term solution to manage the pond and improve water quality is wastewater management for those properties with septic systems that contribute phosphorus load to the pond, which is typically properties within 300 feet of the pond itself. These properties are currently identified to receive municipal sewer in Phase 3 of the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan. Significantly expediting sewer expansion to this location is not practical due to the distance from existing sewer infrastructure. In the short term, it is recommended that the floating treatment wetlands be piloted on a small scale and studied for at least 2 growing seasons to assess phosphorus removal rates of the floating treatment wetland. This information will be used to prepare a technical memorandum detailing the phosphorus removal of the floating treatment wetland system for the purposes of determining if it is a viable option for addressing the excess phosphorus within the pond. This pilot study is not expected to eliminate the potential for cyanobacteria blooms to occur in Long Pond due to the proposed small scale of the project and not resulting in enough phosphorus removal to mitigate that cyanobacteria or the phosphorus load. Funding for this project will be provided from the general fund reserves, which has an existing balance of $24,975,542. There is $25,999 remaining funds from the appropriation for the management plan that will be closed and returned to the general fund reserves. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the rationale. Any councillor comments to my left? No, to my right? Councillor Starr, I'm going to start at the end and work in.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Santos.
Hold, please. It's a public hearing. I'm sorry. I need to ask if there's any members of the public who would like to speak to it on Zoom, maybe?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Gentleman named Todd. Todd, if you could say your first and last name, you may unmute, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Todd Esterbrook. We've been living here in Long Pond Farms, Marston's Mills, since 2000 and since 2001, and really enjoy this area. Our families love Long Pond Farms. We've been able to go, in the pond and enjoy it when our kids were younger. And now that we have grandchildren, they come and visit and they want to go play in the pond. And I have to explain to them, well, there's water there, yes, but you can't get in the water. You can't enjoy the water, and it just can't be used. You know, you can't be around it right now. I just want to speak to that we've missed that. You know, we pay the dues for that, and our family always enjoyed the pond, going out boating and fishing with our families. And so I have grandchildren now, as I mentioned. I just wish that we could go in there and spend some time with them as well on the pond. So I think this expenditure is a reasonable amount. I think it's worth trying this and seeing what will happen. And I just appreciate the town council's time and efforts that they can make if they could approve this expenditure, so we can see what kind of difference that makes in the next year or two. And I appreciate your time tonight, and thanks for what you guys are doing. And the rest of the council members, I appreciate your time as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to comment. Is there anyone else in the public who'd like to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and now we can go back to Councillor Starr. I apologize. Thank you for reminding me.
Thank you very much. I have a lot of questions, but I won't ask them all tonight. But so how, is this is sort of an experiment run by the DPW? You guys are, it's going to be run by the DPW. It's not SMAST.
Oh, well, I will actually will use a contractor, but it will be managed through our office.
Okay. And how do you determine how much phosphorus? Do you have to harvest them at the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you harvest, and
Okay.
That's how you remove it from the system.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Lutke?
I just was curious, is this a similar system, Dan, to what's that schoolhouse pond, or is that a different floating thing that's there?
Yes, it's not this. I'm not sure what that is, but it's not.
It's not
a floating
okay, because there's been one there for years. I just wondered if that was, it's
that may
not.
be an aerator.
Okay. But it's not
I
this.
don't know.
So is
It's
this,
not this.
has this been on any of our other ponds? No, so
No,
this is
is-
new.
Yes.
New to UMass? I mean, have they deployed it elsewhere? Is this new?
It's been piloted at elsewhere, not locally.
Not locally. Okay.
Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Dan. I'm wearing my Councillor Schnepp hat. She's asked me to relay this information to you because she's traveling. Councillor Schnepp would like to heartily support this item. Long Pond is a beloved pond in Marston's Mills and has been unavailable for water recreation for 3 summers in a row. The most effective treatment to counter cyanobacteria blooms is wastewater management of the property's upgrading of the pond. However, the earliest this will happen is another 20 to 25 years from now. Funding the installation of floating wetlands in Long Pond is an innovative pilot that may not only remedy the problem here, but also be a low-cost solution for other lakes and ponds in town that experience these blooms. I just want to follow up with my own comment. I think this is great to pilot something like this because I know when we were looking at alternatives to comprehensive wastewater and sewers, floating wetlands was something to be looked at. And I think it'd be great to begin here in our own town. So I support the article.
Anyone else? No? I'm really thankful we're focusing on ponds, lakes and ponds. You know, the shoreline is obviously very important as well, but, you know, I really feel like this should be a priority, so I'll support the item too. So shall we move to a vote? I believe we should. We will move to a vote. It's a roll call.
Councilors, Atzlis,
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Cusack,
Yes.
Rapcorsetti,
Yes.
Ludke,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Steinhilber.
Yes.
10 yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Next item, I wondered if Councillor Cusack could read in, please, 2023-187.
My pleasure, Madam President. Yes, this is old business. Item requiring public hearing, roll call, majority vote, full council. Item 2023-187, an appropriation order in the amount of $86,758 for the purpose of funding the acquisition of equipment to assist with the implementation of the Greening the Gateway Cities program, and authorization to expend a fiscal year 2024 to 26 Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs Greening the Gateway Cities program grant in the amount of $1,800,000.
Okay, so we're opening for a public hearing, 2023-187, and we have Kate from Planning to walk us through. Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. Kate Maldonado, Assistant Director of Planning and Development, and I'm joined by Annie Bernier, who is our town's tree warden. We are here before you tonight seeking grant acceptance for the Greening the Gateway Cities program. The program is a partnership among 5 groups, including the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, Urban and Community Forestry Program, the Department of Energy Resources, as well as the Department of Housing and Community Development. The program provides funding specifically to gateway cities with a goal of covering tree canopy by 5% within a targeted area. Sorry, the map is bleeding out, but within Massachusetts, this program is active within 22 of our 26 gateway cities. Plantings through this program are concentrated within environmental justice neighborhoods. More specifically, the program targets areas that have lower tree canopy, older housing stock, higher wind speeds, as well as larger renter population. While there's numerous benefits to planting trees, and certainly with this program, with the trees being planted within a targeted area, some of those goals, some of those benefits include improved air and water quality, noise reduction, increased shade, which also helps to maximize energy savings, beautification of our neighborhoods, of our public spaces like our schools and our parks. And then also, sincerely, I think that planting trees increases community as well as individual pride. The overview of this project, so as mentioned, it's a $1.8 million grant. The duration would be for 3 years or 6 planting seasons, fall and spring, and then the improvement would be 2,400 trees. Of that 2,400 trees, 80%, so the majority would be planted on private properties for 1,920 trees, and then the remaining 20%, 480 trees, would be planted on public properties. The targeted area is established as your planting zone, and that's something that we work collaboratively with the Department of Conservation to establish. Firstly, the planting zone, as mentioned, is established within your environmental justice neighborhoods. In addition, there's several other factors that the state, in collaboration with staff, consider when defining this planting zone. Those include looking at the locations of our schools as well as our housing authority parcels, looking at people per acre, reviewing our existing tree canopy. Furthermore, looking at the percentage of parcels covered by that existing tree canopy, as well as our parcels covered by impervious surfaces. So we take all that data, we have our boundaries of it has to be within our environmental justice neighborhoods, we look at that data, and you develop your planting zone, again, collaborating with the Department of Conservation. The planting zone before you on the screen, it's a total of 966 acres. Broadly speaking, it's located north and northwest of downtown Hyannis, again with that 80% on private properties. The goal is really to increase tree canopy within our neighborhoods. To the north, the limits are Route 28 and Iono Road. To the west, Old Strawberry Hill. To the south, West Main Street, as well as Stevens Street. And to the east, it's Ridgewood Avenue, and it also incorporates the western half of C Street. So this is the planting zone where we would be looking to plant 2,400 trees over that 3-year duration. The way we're proposing to structure this program, so again, the 80% will be on the private properties. That's 1,000 920 trees. To have access onto those properties, the landowners would sign an access and water agreement so that we could go to their properties, figure out tree selection as well as tree placement, and then ultimately plant the trees. They would also sign that agreement to say that they would maintain those trees for 2 years after install, and that's general routine maintenance, being watering the tree to make sure that the health of the tree continues to flourish. To achieve that 80% of the trees, really the bulk of this effort, we would be seeking to contract with a landscape contractor to plant those trees. On the public side, so that's the 20%, 480 trees, we'd be looking to hire seasonal staff to help plant and then also maintain, water those trees. And we would be using funding through this grant to hire those staff to contract with the landscape contractor. And then we'd also use funding to hire a project coordinator. It's a large effort, both administratively as well as in the field. So that project coordinator would help to bring everything together, certainly in collaboration with myself and Andy. Should the council approve this grant tonight, we would promptly kick off communication efforts. We already have a draft website, compliments to our amazing communications team who's helped me with that. That website will serve as the hub, as a source of information for residents to learn more about the program, determine how to sign up for a tree, see the list of available free trees, and there'd also be an interactive map that you could zoom in to see if your property fell within the planting zone. We'd also be kicking off with mailers. We have ideas for videos, and certainly all communications would be translated. There's no funding match required for this $1.8 million grant. Our one request before you tonight is seeking appropriation of $86,758, and that would be used to acquire a truck to carry out this program. That truck would be more specifically used to bring the trees from our staging property on town property to the public properties where staff would plant the trees. It'd also be equipped with a watering tank so that we could water the trees to make sure that they flourish for the 2 years after planting. That truck would be added to the Department of Public Works fleet, and we'd certainly be able to use it during off-season for efforts such as snow plowing and continual efforts as well. So it'd be a long-term investment. That sums up my presentation, and certainly interested in any questions or comments.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Andy. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak? No? How about in Zoom land?
Yes, we do have Angela Rutzik. Angela, you may unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Angela Rutzik. Thank you for letting me speak. While I am in favor of voting for planting more trees in our environmental justice communities, I think it's important to remember when the 35 Scudder Twin Brooks proposal comes before the town council, it's going to involve cutting down 500 plus mature trees in environmental justice communities. Many of these trees are over 50 years old and 65 to 80 feet tall. These trees provide many of the same benefits listed in the proposal, except they will not bear the assets of mature trees for many, many years. The proposal notes, through this project, and by increasing tree canopy within the planting zone, the community will realize benefits, including beautification of our neighborhoods, schools, and other public places, improved air quality, noise reduction, increased wildlife habitat, and increased shade, which will reduce urban heat island effect as well as maximize homeowner energy savings. In summary, please note the proposed development on Twin Brooks is directly in opposition to the goal of greening the Gateway Cities Grant. Thank you. I appreciate the time to speak and all the work that you do.
Thank you, Ms. Rudzik. Okay, anyone else to speak? Yep, please come up. Could you come up to the microphone, Don, and state your name? Thank you, so that the public can hear at home. Thank you.
Hi, Dawn Erickson Taylor. I was just curious as to while the trees are waiting to be planted, what kind of maintenance and care they would receive.
Certainly welcome to respond to that, and Andy can speak more technically than I can, but we would be coordinating the delivery of the trees on a weekly or so, maybe bi-weekly basis. We would stage them on town property. They would be watered. Also, when we first received the trees, all the trees would be inspected by Andy and his staff to make sure that they were in good condition, and then we would continue to water them. The trees that we're looking to obtain through this program are container trees, so they'd be like 1 inch to 3 inch maximum caliper. And then certainly Andy would advise if they needed any other routine maintenance.
Did you want to offer something, Andy? No?
No, she covered it all.
She covered it. She's amazing. Awesome. So is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Counselors, to my left. None? To my right. You guys, I got to split it up a little bit here. This is like, lopsided. Counselor Starr, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, okay. My only concern, watering is important. Barnstable Village had some trees planted in a new project a couple of years ago. Weed whackers, you have to protect them from weed whackers. That's the worst thing for a new tree. So, thank you.
Very interesting. Counselor Ludke.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Thank you. Did you model this after other communities? You showed there were some other communities. I'm interested in the percentage, the 80-20. I have a couple other questions, but was that modeled? Was that shown to be a successful way to put the trees out?
Certainly. So as mentioned, this program is active within 22 other communities right now. The state has their template for the amount of acres. So I said 966. It has to be under 1,000. They have a template for the funding that you receive. They have a template for the amount of trees, really to try to hit that targeted goal of that 5% increased tree canopy coverage. And they do implement that split of 20/80 across other communities. I would say that Andy and I were incredibly fortunate to collaborate with the city of Springfield, with their forester, as well as their project coordinator who's overseeing their program, to learn from their lessons learned, and they've provided us with guidance as we brought this before you this evening.
Okay. And then it's going to be a challenge. I know my precinct's in there, and a lot of folks have solar, so they don't want the trees, and I've come across, and then a lot of folks, and I know Jeff has mentioned this, in my precinct, every square inch of the yard isn't really a yard anymore, it's a parking place. So it's going to be tough in some of these areas, to get, but I'm hoping there will be enough, because it's such an important thing. And I'd be excited to work with you guys as you do it. But I do think it's going to be very challenging. I can just say in my own neighborhood, sadly, so many of my neighbors are cutting down their trees. For whatever reason, I don't know. Some people have said they're just plain old scared of trees because they could fall in their house. So, there's going to be a lot of things to overcome. But I think it's a great program.
Certainly. And if I may, I think education serves a significant role in this effort, and that's a role that we're hoping that the project coordinator can serve. Speaking with City of Springfield, that their project coordinator is out in the field going door to door. He sees someone pouring concrete and knows that they're doing construction, so that they'd be modifying the site, and he's speaking to them about this opportunity for free trees. Word of mouth is certainly really beneficial. Once a neighbor receives free trees, hopefully they're talking to their other neighbors and they see the improvements, and so hopefully it's a domino effect where neighborhoods are really seeing the benefit collaboratively and all engage. And that's also why it's important to make sure that we're doing mailers in addition to the door-to-door. So I certainly concur, it's a huge effort, but we will do everything we can to make sure that residents are informed, and certainly appreciate everyone's support should this be approved
Just
tonight.
add one more thing. The Barnstable Barnstable United Elementary School last week sent trees home with every student. So I planted 3 in my yard, 2 of them. These trees they look like this, but they actually are growing leaves. So you're not the only, I don't know if you got involved in that. So there may be some trees already underway from that effort there at the school.
Watch out for the weed whackers. They're that little. Gordon says. Yes, Councilor Rapcorsetti.
Yeah, the weed whackers and the deer, too. So congratulations on the $1.8 million grant. I think that's outstanding. You know, we've got to pay a little bit to receive that grant, but I think this is great. I'm in favor, anytime a tree has to be taken down because of disease or gets damaged, one should be put in its place immediately, and I know that has not happened. So I'm hoping some of the 20% on public will be on our streetways, because there was a time when our streets, had the Dutch elms, which succumbed to the Dutch elms disease, and they were beautiful streets in our town. So I'm all for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any counselors to my left want to weigh in? No? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Kate and Andy. I appreciate it. It's a lot of good information there. So I think we'll move this to a vote.
Counselors, Cullum.
Yes.
Cusack.
Yes.
Rapcorsetti.
Yes.
Budke.
Yes.
Mendez.
Yes.
Neary.
Yes.
Shaughnessy.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Steinhilber.
Yes.
Atzlis.
Yes.
10 yes.
Great. And at this point, I'd entertain a motion to refer items 2023-155 through 2023-177 to individual public hearings to be held on each item at the Town Council meeting on June 1st, 2023.
Second.
Okay, we can take a vote on this. I believe it's a majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? None, so that's unanimous. Thank you. And now I'll ask Councillor Shaughnessy, please, to read into the record 2023-188 and refer that to a second read on 6/1/2023.
Madam President?
Yes.
Just, could we take a quick break? Short
Yes,
bio
of
break?
course.
Thank you.
Not usually in my, I don't usually, yes, absolutely. We're going to take a 5-minute recess for Cusack. Councilors, can we take our seats, please?
Give me 3.
Councilors, can we take our seats, please? Councilor Atzelis, Councilor Cusack. Hello? Paul Neary, come here. All right, here we go. I'm exerting my power. We're all ready to move on? Okay, Councilor Shaughnessy, please. Could
Thank you,
read
Madam.
into the, oh, I already said it, didn't I? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. This is new business, first read, being referred to a second reading on 6/1/2023. This is item number 2023-188, appointments to a board, committee, commission, and I'm going to move the item as written.
Any discussion on moving the item? No? So let's just do that, please. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Councilor Shaughnessy, I'm going to stick with you through all the appointments committee, please. So 2023-189, if you'd read that in, please.
Thank you. This is new business, first reading, being referred to a second reading on 6/1/2023. This is item number 2023-189, reappointments to a board, committee, commission, being moved as written.
Any discussion on the item at all? Yes?
I just have a procedure question. It's an enormous list. I sat in on a couple of your meetings just because I'm trying to get more intelligent on things. But did you actually interview all these people? Did you interview some?
So we're just moving it now to the next hearing, then we'll discuss the item
we'll
next
discuss
time,
it
if that's
then.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this time we just move it so we can actually discuss it publicly. This is just
Okay,
notice to
makes
the public
sense.
that we're doing
Thank
it.
you.
So
Sorry,
no problem. We all learn. So anyone else? No, seeing none, we'll move that to a vote, please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Okay, unanimous, Madam Clerk. And then Tracy, if you could do 2023-190 as well.
Madam Vice President, I'm going to recuse myself from this item.
Okay, so noted.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. This is new business, first reading, being referred to a second reading on 6/1/2023. This is item number 2023-190, reappointment to a board, committee, commission. Shall I read it since it's so short?
I think you can handle it, can't you?
Resolved that the town council reappoint the following individual to a multiple-member board, committee, commission, youth commission. Mary Steinhilber as a student member to a term expiring 6/30/2024, as read.
Yes, Councilor Rep Grissetti.
Madam Vice President, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for a second reading on this item.
And the rationale behind that would be that Councilor Steinhuber's daughter is listed in this, so he recused himself. This way he doesn't have to recuse himself next time as well. He can just be part of the meeting to vote on the other things. So if I can get a second on that, we can.
Second.
Okay. So then we're going to move to a vote, having suspended the rules on item 2023-190.
Don't we have to vote on the motion to suspend the rules?
We do. Let's vote on that motion. Just making sure. Just making sure. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to suspend the rules? Aye. All those opposed? We're good in the hood. So now we're going to vote on the item as amended. So all those in favor of the item as amended? Aye. But it was, what was it called? What do I say? As written? As written. Okay, I'm sorry. So we'll vote on the item as written. Okay, so all those in favor, everybody said yes. Opposed? No one says it. Okay, so it's unanimous as well. Thank you. Sorry about the bumble. Okay, Councilor Steinhilber can come back in if he wants. He's probably gone. Okay, Paul Neary.
My pleasure,
Yeah.
My pleasure, Madam Vice President. This is new business. It may be acted upon with a majority vote. It is item number 2023-191. It's an acceptance of the provisions of Chapter 41, Section 110A of the Massachusetts General Laws, as written.
And we have Ann Quirk, the town clerk, to give us a rationale.
Good evening, councilors. So nice to see you from this angle. This Mass General Law allows us to suspend the rules or change the rules for a Saturday day here at Town Hall to allow people to register to vote. It doesn't disenfranchise anyone. They changed the rules with the Votes Act so that every time we have a voter registration, it's now going to land on a Saturday. We have to do it for all the state and federal elections. But for a municipal election, it would mean I would be having my full staff here to register people to vote that never come in to register to vote on the last day. It doesn't matter whether it's 20 days before or 10 days before. They just don't do it. Anyone can register to vote through online voter registration through the Secretary of State's office. They can send it to us. They can send us an email so we can send them back a voter registration card. And they can go to the Registry of Motor Vehicles now, which does not allow you to leave without becoming a voter. There's no opting out anymore at the Registry of Motor Vehicles. So there's several ways for people to actually register to vote. And we spend so much money for elections that for a municipal election, for us to be open on a Saturday, it just doesn't make any sense to pay all that overtime. So that's why I was asking for this.
Thank you very much for the rationale.
You're welcome.
Any councilors have any questions? To my left, no. To my right, no. Okay, seeing none, we'll move that to a vote. This is a majority vote. So all those in favor, raise your hand by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? None? That's a unanimous vote. Councilor Atzelis, could you please read the item 2023-192?
Yes, I will, Madam Vice President. This is an item of new business. Item number 2023-192, acceptance on behalf of the town of a gift of a 2015 31-foot safe boat from the Cape Cod Regional Law Enforcement Council for use by the Barnstable Police Department. May be acted upon, majority vote.
Thank you very much. And we have Chief Sonnabend here.
Second.
Oops. Thank you very much. We have Chief Sonnabend here to give us the rationale. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, members of the council, Chief Sonnabend. There we go. Push that button again.
Oh.
Good evening, Madam President, Madam Vice President, members of the council, Chief Sonnabend, Barnstable Police Department. As you all know, the Barnstable Police Department has long maintained a Marine Division available for emergency response and other public safety missions off the town of Barnstable coastline. With two major ferry services based in Hyannis Harbor, shuttling passengers, goods, and services to and from the islands on a daily basis, one of the busiest airports in the region, and numerous maritime-based public events occurring annually, the ability of the Barnstable Police Department to respond quickly and effectively to maritime emergencies is essential. Currently, the 26-foot regulator that serves as the Barnstable Police Department's main response unit is in need of engine repair, 2 new engines, to the cost of about $80,000. However, the Cape Cod Regional Law Enforcement Council has received a 2015 31-foot safe boat from the Barnstable County Sheriff's Department for use as a regional response asset. The Cape Cod Regional Law Enforcement Council does not possess its own staff or facilities to operate the safe boat and seeks to transfer the ownership to the town of Barnstable to enable the Barnstable Police Department to operate the safe boat as a town of Barnstable asset, making it available as a regional asset in support of the Regional Law Enforcement Council as needed. The current 26-foot regulator owned and operated by the Barnstable Police Department Marine Unit will be sold and the proceeds used to help cover the operating costs associated with the new safe boat. The acceptance of the 2015 31-foot safe boat from the Regional Law Enforcement Council will enable the Barnstable Police Department to continue to provide maritime public safety coverage and emergency response, as well as providing a regional support to the other members of the among other member agencies of the Regional Law Enforcement Council as needed. The fiscal impact is that the Barnstable Police Department is currently budgeted for and maintains a line item for a Marine unit. Costs associated with the Cape Cod Regional Law Enforcement Council use of the boat would be covered by the Cape Cod Regional Law Enforcement Council. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Any questions on my left? Councilor Neary, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Chief, thank you for your presentation. What is a safe boat? What is it? Is it center console? Is it a houseboat?
Basically, it's an aluminum-hulled, rigid-hulled inflatable. And it has a compartment on it, a crew cabin, that protects the crew from the weather, the elements. It's heated, it's air-conditioned, so it's available to operate in rough maritime environment. Currently, the boat we have, we take out every winter and put back in the spring. This boat has the ability to stay in the water year-round. Yes, it is.
Any other councilors to my left? No? To my right? Come on, Gordon. No? Councilor Rapcasetti.
Chief, where's the boat going to be kept? The same spot that the regulators kept it?
We have two options. Currently, the regulator is on the State Pier at the right there by the steamship, which is where the current plan is, but I've also spoken with Marine Environmental Affairs. They have room for the boat also over at Bismarck Park if we need to put it there.
Great, thank you.
Okay, with no more questions, Councilor Ludke.
Is this the boat that the sheriff's office had to divest?
That is correct.
It is.
That is correct.
Okay, well, that's great that they found this great use for it. Yeah.
Yes, I think we're happy to have it. Any more discussion on the item? Seeing none, we can move that to a vote. This is a majority vote, so all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for hanging in there. Let's see. Who do I need to pick on now? Councilor Starr, bring us home.
Oh, thank you. This is item number 2023-193. May be acted upon with a roll call majority vote. Approval to increase the cost of living adjustment for Barnstable County retirees from 3% to 5% for fiscal year 2023.
Thank you very much. And we have Mark Milne, our Finance Director, here to answer questions and give the rationale.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, councilors. Mark Milne, Director of Finance. Chapter 269 of the Acts of 2002 provides the local retirement systems with a local option to increase the cost of living allowance adjustment in fiscal year 2022-2023 up to 5% on the base amount specified pursuant to General Law, Chapter 32, Section 103. The approval of the increase can occur at any time during the fiscal year and will take effect as of July 1, 2022. In order for Barnstable County Retirement System to adopt the COLA increase pursuant to this act, the Retirement Board must vote for the increased amount, and then it must also receive local approval by 2/3 of the city and towns that participate in the Retirement Association. Barnstable County Retirement Association has established a maximum base of $18,000 for the calculation of the COLA, which would mean that if this is approved, the maximum increase to any retiree would be $30 a month. The County Retirement System's actuary, Siegel Company, prepared estimates as to the impact on the system's unfunded liability as a result of approval of this action, and the annual impact on the assessments to participating member, and its annual impact on assessments to the participating members. It is estimated by Siegel Company that the town of Barnstable's annual assessments for fiscal year 25 and 26 would increase $168,000 and $178,000 respectively. Approval of this action would result in a higher retirement assessment on an annual basis and would need to be factored into our future budgets. I would also like to recognize in the room this evening we have Susie Holmes, who's the Executive Director of the Barnstable County Retirement Association, and either one of us would be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this action.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Holmes. Councilor discussion. Councilor Ludke.
Am I understanding, Mark, this is paid by the people paying into the program, or this is paid some other way? Is it just you're going to increase the payments for the people paying in?
No, we're increasing the benefit that are to retirees,
No, but,
the monthly benefit to the retirees.
right, the benefit will increase, but the costs would not be absorbed by people participating currently, who are not
It's absorbed
retired
by the
yet.
communities who provide the benefit, the public benefit, the pension obligation. It's our obligation as an employer. We're paying the cost of this benefit to our retired employees. Though our active employees contribute to the system on an annual
Right.
basis, yes.
That's what I'm wa-
It's a cost-sharing plan.
Okay, so so the active employees, their rates are also going to rise to help cover this, or no?
No, just our
okay,
annual
just
assessment
yours.
to
Okay.
towns. Yes.
All right.
Counselor Starr?
I had a question. So the present county employees pay into the retirement system.
Yes.
Okay, they pay 11%.
Sorry.
No.
Depending on, hi, my name is Susie Bento Holmes. I'm the Executive Director at the Barnstable County Retirement Office. Our members pay different percentages depending on when they became members in our system. The majority of our people now contribute 9% of their salary or their base salary into our system, as well as an additional 2% for any amount over $30,000. And that money is added into a fund that is not only their money, the town contributes annual appropriations, and that money is invested in order to allow that fund to grow to fund all of the retirements for all municipal employees that are part of our system on Cape Cod.
So is that fund growing?
Yes.
Okay.
We're at approximately $1.5 billion, and we have 37,000 retirees currently in our system.
Can I make another question?
Sure.
So I thought we were talking about county employees. So we're talking about who?
It's municipal employees across the Cape. So anybody within Barnstable County Retirement, so that would be all the towns. That's why the law requires us to have 2/3 of the towns approve this increase before we can grant this to the retirees.
How many, where are you on the 2/3? Just out of curiosity.
Currently have 8 towns that have said yes, 1 town that has said no.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? See, oh, yeah.
Which town said no?
Which town said?
Of the town of Bourne.
Bourne, okay.
If I may,
You may, Counselor Neary.
Vice President. Thank you. Where does our unfunded liability stand currently? I know that we've been adding additional monies every year, so to
We
reduce that.
anticipate being fully funded by 2037. We're about 65% funded at this point.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Any more discussion on the item? Seeing none, we can move it to a vote then. All those in favor of this item, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. All those opposed? None. That's unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming tonight and waiting to the end. I appreciate it. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is it unanimous? Okay. Bye, everybody. Good night. Thank you.